It appears Nvidia has made a hefty chunk of profits, or at least a hefty chunk of money, off of the Nintendo Switch. Now we know they have roughly a total of a 10-year partnership with Nintendo that maybe could be expanded upon if things continue to go as well as they have. But in some recent financial reports, we finally get an idea of what the sales of Nintendo Switch have done for Nvidia. Now, this piece of news comes from gadgets.ndtv.com, who broke down their financial report to try to figure this out. And here is a direct quote from their article on this, which is linked in the description below. While Nvidia may be suffering from an excessive stock of 10 series GeForce GPUs, it appears that other divisions of the company have been faring better thanks to the Nintendo Switch. While Nvidia doesn't regularly announce how much money its gaming business makes from GPUs and the Nintendo Switch, its recent financial results do give us an idea of how much of an impact Nintendo's hybrid console has had on the graphics specialist. According to a report from The Motley Fool, it seems the Nintendo Switch contributes to 18% of Nvidia's revenue in gaming. Revenue from Tegra processors that are used in the company's automotive solutions and the Nintendo Switch were announced to be at $1.53 billion, with automotive revenue being at $558 million during Nvidia's 2018 fiscal year. Subtracting that from the total Tegra processing revenue of the $1.53 billion, we get what the site refers to as non-automotive Tegra processor revenue. In other words, Nintendo Switch processor revenue, totaling around $972 million. That is right. In 2018 alone, it appears that Nvidia might have made close to $1 billion off of Switch. Now, the caveat to this is that we're just talking about total revenue of $972 million, and it needs to also be noted of that $972 million that it's not technically Nintendo Switch, it's all gaming related Tegra. So as an example, there is NVIDIA Shields that exist out there using Tegra technology, but obviously Switch is by far and away the primary Tegra selling thing on the market. It probably makes up over 90% of the Tegra market share in gaming. And it's very interesting to see that 972 million mark because that is just the amount of money coming in. We do not know if any of it's profit. That's something we need to remember when we're looking at that $972 million, or if you want to round it up to $1 billion, fine. That $1 billion in revenue, again, we don't know how much of it is actually profits. Remember, way back when this partnership was formed, some people have wondered if NVIDIA had actually made an under market value deal with Nintendo to get that Nintendo contract, and because of that, might not be making much, if any, profits, at least off of the initial run of Switch units using the stock Tegra X1, which they very well might have just had a bunch of those sitting around in a warehouse because they never really took off in their own devices, aka the NVIDIA Shield and the one that goes under your TV never really became a standard that people bought for their homes, like Roku devices and Apple TVs and stuff of that nature. So yes, it's a lot of money, but again, we don't know if any of it is actually profit-based. That being said, obviously, regardless of if it's profit-based or not, it does mean that the partnership is successful. Having almost $1 billion in revenue off of Switch for a company that makes the core hardware for it is very, very good news for NVIDIA, and obviously really good news for Nintendo, because think about this. If they have almost $1 billion in just money coming in off of the sales of Switch units in 2018, imagine the kind of money Nintendo has coming in. It's got to be astronomical. And this also sheds some light because we often don't know these kind of breakdowns. Like when Nintendo has been partnering with companies like AMD in the past, we had no idea what the operating revenue was off of something like a 3DS or a Wii or a Wii U. Like, we have no idea what the breakdown was. This is the first time we're able to actually break it down to a point where we can kind of sort of tell what the company partnered with Nintendo is actually making off of Nintendo's hardware. So this is all really, really good stuff for everyone involved. And I obviously think it's going to grow. I think there's going to be future Switch revisions that are going to be using Tegra X2s, which might not have as good of a deal in place as maybe the stock Tegra X1s. But again, we're talking about a 10-year partnership. Clearly, this is an investment in the long haul, and I'm sure NVIDIA, when it's all said and done, is going to make several $1 billion off of the Switch business, the Switch Pro business, the Switch 2 business, or whatever. And if everything keeps going this well, don't be surprised if even when Nintendo does get past this partnership and does maybe make something different that's not like Switch, maybe they go back to making an under TV box or something, whatever they decide to do in a decade, that Nintendo sticks with NVIDIA if this keeps happening, which, again, I think is also good for just competitive sake. Now, personally, I've always been more of an AMD fan. I am well aware that NVIDIA has been ahead in the graphics card game for a long time, and they are still ahead. Just like I'm aware that Intel has been ahead in the processor game for a long time until Ryzen and Threadripper came to the market, and now there's actually legit arguments, depending on what you're using, for which CPU you should be building a computer with, or using on your servers, or using for video rendering. Like, there's legit arguments now to be made across the board that Intel isn't always the obvious choice. In fact, in many situations, you should be going Ryzen, you should be going Threadripper. So that's healthy. And what I like about this is the video game market itself has been dominated by partnerships between AMD and console manufacturers. That is what Xbox is using, that's what PlayStation is using, and that is previously what Nintendo was using as well. So to see NVIDIA in the marketplace, to see them seeing a significant revenue coming out of that marketplace is only going to bode well for the future of Switch in terms of NVIDIA's investment in trying to make bigger and better technologies for Nintendo in the future, and also just for healthy competition in the video game marketplace when it comes to dedicated devices. I can't wait to see what happens in the future. I hope you guys are looking forward to that as well and agree that competition is good for everyone. Do you guys care about how much money NVIDIA is making? I know in the grand scheme, multi-billion-dollar companies, I really don't care how much money they're making overall, but I do want to see healthy competition, because I think healthy competition breeds more variety in the marketplace, more competitiveness, and better overall products for end consumers. All right, folks, I'm Nathaniel Rumblejants from Nintendo Prime. If you like this video, you know what to do, and if you dislike the video, hit that dislike button, subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one.